I still remember my first hard sparring session. I was fairly new to kickboxing, and so I got destroyed by a guy who must have been at least 3 weight classes below me. For every punch that I somehow managed to land, I had to eat at least 5. So fast that I couldn't even pull my hand back in time to cover the first ones. At some point, I was just standing there waiting for the bell to stop the round. Then it happened. Knee to the head, I went down. But what even hit me harder than that was yet to come. Afterwards, in the locker room, he told me that my punches, those that I threw, they were not even that hard. I was shocked. I was the biggest, most muscular guy there, and I couldn't even hit hard. But he was right. My punches, they were too slow to be hard. Think about it. Force is mass times acceleration. Yeah, acceleration. That's what's missing. I had to change something. I had to become faster, more powerful. Bodybuilding wouldn't get me there. But at the same time, it was no option to stop growing my muscles. I always wanted to be big and able to fight. I think that's what high testosterone young men inherently want. We've all have admired those action heroes in movies like Arnold and Stallone, or fighters like Mike Tyson, prime Mike Tyson. Big, scary, dominating everything. Those are our idols. So don't listen to those skinny little bitches that want you to stay skinny. They are not on your side. They want to keep you down on their level so that they can feel better about their fucking selves. So don't fall for that shit, man. You need to become bigger and you need to perform better. Therefore, you need to train for hypertrophy, but you also need to train for strength, speed and power. Those things, they go all hand in hand. Hypertrophy or muscle mass is basically the foundation for strength, and strength is the foundation for speed, for being fast, because of all those fast twitch muscle fibers. Basically, those fast twitch muscle fibers, they get trained in strength training, and also you get the inter and intramuscular coordination there, and those are obviously needed for being fast or moving fast. And in this video I will break down exactly how to train for those things, as well as how to structure such a training session and how to schedule your training sessions, and also how to progress so that you don't overtrain. So first things first, the first thing you need to train chronologically in a training session is always speed and power stuff. When training for speed and power, it's all about being as fast as fucking possible. You always have to have the intention in mind when you move the weight that it's all about being as fast as possible. That's the most important thing. Therefore, you would stay very low rep, between 1 and 8 reps at the most of fairly light weights. Therefore, a good rule of thumb is that your sets, they shouldn't last longer than 6 seconds at the absolute most. There, in this time frame, you work mostly the ATP-PC energy system, the ATP phosphocreatine system, and also, well, if it takes longer than 6 seconds, then you normally start to slow down. Also, if you start to slow down before those 6 seconds are over, then it's also time to stop the set. It's really all about being as fast as possible. So those sets, they should not fatigue you. And since we're going only so few reps, so low rep, we have to do a lot more sets. So 5 sets to up to 12 sets per exercise, just to get the volume that's necessary for adaptation. And because we do so many reps, we stay with very short rest intervals, between 30 seconds to up to a minute at most. First of all, because those sessions, they would take for ages if you would rest longer than that, and also because we want to train our ability to repeat the power output as fast as possible, like it's also in a fight. After we finished our speed and power work, we would move on to the strength work. There we would do 2 exercises typically, and well, I'm a big fan of the Westside system, or the methods of the conjugate system, which is the West Side System. Therefore, for the first strength exercise, we would work our way up to a 1, 2 or 3 rep max. So let's say we would want to work our way up to a 3 rep max in the bench press, which would be 120 kilos. So we would do our warm-up sets first, like 8 to 10 reps with just the bar weight. Then we would move on to 60 kilograms for 5 reps. Then we would do some 80 or 90 kilograms with 3 or 4 reps. And then we would move on to our heavy triples, like 100 kilograms for 3 reps, then 110 kilograms for 3 reps, and then our max set, our 120 kilos, also for 3 reps if we can make it. And then we would move on to our secondary strength exercise, which targets either the weaknesses of the first exercise, like for example in the bench press, when you struggle locking out, like the top position, then you probably have a triceps weakness, so our secondary exercise would work the triceps. Or the second option is to work on muscles that have not been trained by the primary strength exercise. So if we do an upper body strength session and our first exercise is the bench press, then our second exercise could be for the back, like for example a weighted pull-up or a lat pull-down, something like that. When we have finished our strength work, we would move on to the hypertrophy work. If we have trained upper body strength, then we would also train upper body hypertrophy. If we have trained lower body strength, then we would also train lower body hypertrophy. And well, we would do there 2 to 4 exercises, not more, because, well, first of all, this is absolutely enough to grow your muscles, because they have also already been trained in the strength part of the workout. And well, we don't want to have too much volume, because there we would struggle to recover, just be sore all the time, and that's not good if we want to perform very well. So we want to train with just as much volume to grow our muscles and not more. And for those hypertrophy exercises, we also want to stay fairly low rep, because the secondary goal of those is also to become stronger in order to enhance our main lifts or strength exercises, and they should enhance the martial arts performance, of course. So we stay fairly low rep. Depends on the exercise, of course, like for dumbbell bent over rows or dumbbell bench press, there we could stay between 6 to 8 repetitions, and for triceps pushdowns or biceps curls, for example, there we could do more reps, like up to 15 or 17. And by the way, I have a full training program. That's the cheapest it will get right now. Link is in the description. So now let's move on to how to schedule your training sessions. Well, how many training sessions you have, this depends highly on how many martial arts or kickboxing sessions you have each week. If you have 2 or 3 kickboxing sessions, then do 3 gym sessions. If you have 4 or more kickboxing sessions a week or martial arts sessions, then I would not do more than 2 gym sessions. And ideally you want to have at least 72 hours until you train a body part very intensely again. So for example, if you have 2 martial arts sessions per week, like I have a kickboxing session on Tuesday and one on Thursday, for example, and therefore I do a full body session on Wednesday and the upper body session on Saturday and the lower body session on Sunday. That works very well for me, and I have no problems recovering that whatsoever. If you have more than that, more kickboxing or martial arts sessions, like on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday and Friday, for example, then you can do a gym session on Wednesday and one on Saturday or Sunday. And those gym sessions, they would be full body sessions, because you want to hit your muscle groups 2 times a week. That's of course better than just 1 time per week. Therefore, it's better to do it this way than to do a push-pull leg split, for example. So how would a full body session look like? Well, for example, you would do 2 to 4 speed exercises, then you would do your 2 strength exercises, and then you would do your hypertrophy exercises. Your lower body day, for example, for the 3 day a week split would be strength work lower body, hypertrophy lower body. Your upper body session would be strength upper body, hypertrophy upper body, and your full body session would then be speed lower body, speed upper body, and then hypertrophy full body. But again, if you want a full training program, then check out the link in the description. And now let's talk about progression or loading strategies. Like if you're familiar with bodybuilding training, then you know about progressive overload. And bodybuilders, they typically try to do more every time, like 1 rep here, 1.5 kilograms there, stuff like that. If you're new to training in the beginning, of course, it's very easy to do more every time, to be stronger every time. But if you train like for a couple of months, even years, then it's very hard to still progress in that way. Therefore, for performance training, there are many different loading or progression strategies. For example, the wave loading, which is basically you increase your intensity over a 3-week period, and then you drop your intensity again, like this would be then your deload, and then you switch exercises and you would do such a 4-week cycle again. And another option for strength training, for example, would be the Westside system. So they go for a 1 rep max every single week, and this is of course not possible if you have the same exercise every week, because then you would develop overuse injuries and your performance would go down after a while. So therefore they change up the exercise basically every single week. You don't need to change it up every single week, only if you're already very, very advanced, but normally it's enough if you change it up every 3 weeks. So that's it about the rundown on how to balance lifting weights and martial arts in order to become that big and dangerous motherfucker. See you in the next one.